I like your sound. It sounds good, actually.
Yay!
Okay, so the real question is, who's going to start?
You.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
Maria put you in the hot seat.
True.
If Maria Gonzalez says, be in the hot seat, Alexis, you're in the hot seat.
No, that's not the way I work it.
Oh, that's not the way you work it. Okay, show us how you work it, girl.
Oh, it's really simple. Hi, I'm Alexis Melvin. This is 22 Sides. And with me today is Robin Mack.
Hey.
And
Audrey Nath. Hello.
Yes.
And so today we're going to talk about whatever we decide to talk about.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
We can talk about anything. It's 22 sides. That means
I know.
like any conversation. We're complex people.
Exactly.
And we might want to talk about the fact that she's like running for something.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's a marathon, right? It's a sprint
A little
and a
bit.
marathon. All
Well,
in
you
one
know,
race.
some people run for something and then run for something else. And
And some people have spontaneous seats that pop up because Abby decides to do something else, and all of a sudden her seat can be filled by somebody else, maybe named Audrey, right?
That's right. You know, it certainly moved up my timeline when I saw that post on social media.
I mean,
it certainly did.
Isn't it something that you can't really? I mean,
You can't
was
plan
it
on that.
Was it on your radar? I don't
No.
think anyone knew she was moving. I think they were like maybe whispering a little bit.
There were whispers, but
everyone whispers.
Exactly. There's whispers about all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
but nobody's getting a
Right.
campaign together based upon
well, I
whispers.
mean, it wasn't a quick decision on Abby's part.
Of course.
Okay. She
It was-
let everyone know for so long that we were all planning. No.
I think so.
Really?
I mean, it wasn't a quick decision. Now, the question was whether Kristen would move
That's
as was expected.
That's true.
And then when Kristen moved, then it was a known thing, essentially, except
That's true.
she didn't start announcing things until she was ready to go with it.
And
Okay,
on December 5th, we got the official announcement.
Well,
Yes.
That's fair.
On social media,
If you knew
yes.
civics and you were in the know
Yeah.
of what people were doing and you played the long strategy game like Alexis, then you might have guessed this seat's about to be open.
So Alexis Melvin knew, everybody. That's that we know.
I talked to Abby a lot.
No, we love Abby. We're just messing
Absolutely.
with her. And we
She's
hope
been
to have her on here.
Oh,
And,
she
yeah.
would. She's been so supportive.
I'm
It's
sure
been
she's busy.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you talked much with her?
I talked to her again yesterday. Yes, she's been so supportive.
That's great.
Yes.
It's important to know what you're getting into, especially with the person currently in the seat.
Of course.
Yeah, that's
Yes. She's
wonderful.
given me the lay of the land. I've talked to her staff. But yes, it was an interesting thing when that news dropped on December 5th. I had heard the rumblings, and essentially I was thinking about running in 2027 because I had ran for school board, HISD school board this past November. Essentially, there was an incumbent who was supported by Paul Betancourt and Ted Cruz, who had won initially in 2021 on a platform of being anti-critical race theory, which is not taught as an HISD course. We all know what that is. It's a dog whistle. And my kids are in HISD schools, and I'd been speaking out against the state takeover. And so I got a call in May that was like, hey, nobody is running against this person. And I looked around. You look to the left, you look to the right. It's me.
Oh, no, it's me.
It's me. I am
You got your own elbow. You're like, oh, it's me. Dig it. Yeah.
Look around. And so it's like, oh, I'm going to do
Look at that
this.
mirror over there.
Yeah.
Because this person doesn't represent me. So
Right.
I went ahead and I ran. And I knew, it was going to be an uphill battle, that this is someone
How
who has...
long was that race?
That race was in November.
Okay.
So I went and knocked on over 4,000 doors and talked to a lot of people.
You're breaking shoes. You're like getting around.
I'm a very fortunate person that I have very flexible telemedicine work.
There you
so
go.
I can.
Okay. That's helpful.
But I talked to a ton of people, and a lot of overlapping issues came up. People would say, hey, there's a bunch of speeding cars on the street near my kid, school. We need a crosswalk there, things like that. And I was like, that's a city issue. And during that race, I was speaking out about we do not want ICE on our HISD campuses.
Right.
And that's also a city issue. So, I came close. I got 46% of the vote. And after that, even after I lost, I started to think, you know what? I think I could have an impact on these issues that everybody was telling me about in city council.
Right.
So I thought about
Makes
it for
sense.
2027.
It's a natural step,
was.
it seems like.
So much of it was overlapping.
And you live in District C.
I live in District C. My kids are in HISD schools in District C. I mean, basically, even then, of course, there are wealthier parts of District C, Heights, Montrose,
quite
and
big.
Rice, but there's also Title I schools that need help. Gregory Lincoln Education Centers in District C. And that's a school that's about 90% under the poverty line.
And doesn't it basically bump up against all the other districts? I mean, there's a lot of partnership available.
It does. Exactly. And I've spoken with some of the other district council offices about like, okay, all right, Tarsha Jackson office, what are we doing? You know?
Like, where's the bridges?
Exactly. But, you know, there's even from that race, I started talking to a couple of farms in the area about like, okay, how can we get nutritious meals to kids over the summers
I love people listening and they're like, wait. We just went from like Montrose to farms. But like, that's how Houston rolls.
22 sides, you said.
Yeah, that's how Houston rolls.
Yeah, when I moved to Houston, the farms were just right over there.
When Whitmire went in office, didn't he say, did you know we have horses in Houston? And you were like, yeah, don't you know? And I was like, wait, you don't know? You got to take a tour.
And we'll have to get to the horses of it all. But yeah, basically just starting to think like, okay, how can we deal with food insecurity with some of these families?
That's awesome.
We can work with local farms. And that's something that could also be done at city council to get this going.
Yes. Some of these neighborhoods still have very much like food deserts.
That's the thing.
Even though like Urban Harvest and a lot of community-driven DIY like gardens try, we also get hit by like so much, you know, nature ups and downs.
For sure. Yes.
You know? I mean,
and
I just recently during the pandemic started noticing plant people, let's say, and I love them, you know. But
we do.
I mean, I used to work with Central City Co-op. I used to be a juicer. I used to go to the farmers market. So I was around all that. But what it actually takes to have a garden and then to watch it during the freeze die off or during the whatever, like it's a lot. It hits people like really hard. Like it takes a minute to come back from that.
It is.
You can't just go out and plant again. It's like it's hard.
It's an emotional investment.
You know? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the fact is, that's not your choice. That's the way the world is.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
And you know, you find that farmers, when something goes wrong like that, the next thing they're doing is planting.
Yeah.
Home gardeners, when it goes wrong, they're sitting there deciding what they're going to do to console themselves.
Yeah, you're right. It's sad.
and the farmers are like, look, we've had it wiped out 3 years in a row sometimes.
Yeah, based upon this almanac.
That's right. Thanks, Ben Franklin.
Like,
thank you.
Yeah, it's still valuable. Gosh.
Hey, you know, I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that the Farmer's Almanac is as accurate as our 10-day plus weather forecast.
Hey.
And it forecasts years in advance.
Yeah, I know some people that do public art and they plan that because they're doing it outside. So that they're like, we're still going to look at this reference for long-term planning.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It's a good source. Yeah. Well, so we're talking about this. We're dancing around District C, but like, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? So you jump in, you're a runner and all this other stuff, but like, sounds like you're a mom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Audrey Nath, pronouns she, hers. I've been in Houston most of my life.
We just went into the speech.
Oh, no,
that's
sorry.
okay.
No, that's good.
No, go for it. No.
In case people missed it, I'm like, this sounds like a campaign speech.
So we want people to know. We want people to know. And the idea of this is like, if people are clicking play and giving their time, we want them to have a seat at the table. And a lot of people don't have time or access to talk to actual politicians. You know, they might only see them on the news. They might read about them in a resource, but that's actually through the journalist. That's not from the politician most of the time.
That's right.
So like, why don't you just introduce yourself to people who may never get to meet you, but might actually vote for you?
Sure. I'm Audrey. I live in Montrose. I was born in Houston at St. Luke's Hospital. My parents, my mom immigrated from Hong Kong. My dad came from India, and they met at the University of Houston in the 1970s. All the foreign students hung out together and did potlucks and movie nights. They described it was these big reels that went around and around that they would set up and troubleshoot. And that's how they met. And they started a life in Houston because that's where the jobs were. And they could buy a house and raise a small family. And so I went to schools in Spring Branch ISD. And then, went to Rice for undergrad. And then I went to med school just across the street at UT Houston. And, it was... Yeah. So basically, med school was an experience. You walk in the very beginning and there's gross anatomy and you walk into this huge room and there's just bodies as far as you can see. And here's yours. And you bond with your tank mates, sing songs and tell stories. it takes a bunch of work to dissect this body. In any case, so that was the beginning of med school. But then you also go to the hospitals. And that was a real learning experience for me. Especially in the county hospitals. It's like, wait a minute, why are we cutting off this guy's leg for his uncontrolled diabetes when, wait a minute, if he had access to healthcare consistently, we wouldn't have to be doing this surgery, you know? And just like, it's like with my kids, they ask why a bunch of times. You only have to ask why once or twice to start to like reevaluate your whole life. And like, what am I doing here? There's these bigger problems. I'm like, and then
system problems.
Exactly. That are so much bigger than what one doctor does.
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of stuck with me. The first part of my residency in pediatrics I did in San Antonio, and it was a lot of that.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, this kid, 7-year-old in clinic, he's got asthma, and the mom's like, well, there's mold in the apartment, and we keep telling the landlord.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, oh, this is making me reevaluate my whole life. And so we were able to work with the legal team to expedite. Yeah. And write I wrote up the part about the kid's asthma, and the lawyer wrote up the part about the property, and we were able to get it expedited. But it's the kind of thing that you just keep thinking about.
You're making a difference, but you want a bigger impact.
It's like, wait, there's a bigger problem here.
Yeah, the problem is that's one person.
Yes, exactly.
And we think that if we make laws or rules that people will follow them. Well, they don't.
The enforcement is not...
Exactly.
Enforcement for theft, right? The most common form of theft is wage theft. But that's not what normally gets enforced. You're right. Laws can be on the books, but the enforcement is not equal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's one of my things that I see all the time. We say we don't have enough police officers. Okay, we probably don't. But the other thing about it is, how many police officers does it take to be at the scene for a murder? Because it's not like the victim's going anywhere. I mean, not to be tacky, but you can take your time.
It's kind of a done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe right at the very beginning, but, a day and a half of 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 police cars sitting there while they're standing around a lot of the time and all this type of stuff. It's like, why aren't they back out on the street? And
helping with more
and helping
cases.
with other things.
I take that a step further. Why do we have police officers that are pulling people over for tinted windows or broken taillight?
I've actually gotten a tinted window ticket, and when I addressed another police officer, he's like, that's just a shit ticket to write, like traffic stopping.
Exactly. So why do we have that at all when there are calls for active violent situations?
Absolutely.
I take it a step further. I had gotten a
car that went through lemon check. It was from the dealership, but nobody ever told me about that until I got the ticket.
Oh, it wasn't even your choice, tinted windows.
I bought a car from a valid dealership. They told me it was fine. And then all of a sudden I got pulled over and the cop said this tint is too dark. I'm like based upon what?
Oh, you didn't even know.
I had no idea. And so that's like $100, $200 plus you have to ask off of work.
That's right.
Meanwhile, there really wasn't a problem.
And it didn't make you safer.
Houston. We get sunburned in our car. Anyways. But to your point, meanwhile, what else was going on in Houston?
Who knows?
Probably plenty.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
DV calls. Who knows?
That $200 can keep people from paying rent.
It would.
And if it's important, there may be easier ways to do it. For instance, at that time, we still had safety inspections.
Yeah.
Add the tint to the safety inspections.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's easy.
There are other ways to do this.
We're already paying whatever we're supposed to pay for that.
Oh, yeah. We are.
And it's like, fine. If it's a problem with that, then you get, what is it, I guess 30 days or something to fix it.
Exactly.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you're not getting pulled over, which is a stressful thing for a lot of people.
Gosh. Yeah. Every time for me.
I mean, I think once I had my kid in the back and he was crying and they made the comment, oh, you seem stressed. I was like, I am right now.
Yeah.
This is stressful.
Yeah.
And there's a number of people who are stressed out for a number of reasons.
Totally.
Even just being pulled over and finding a safe place to stop is sometimes non-trivial.
It's
right?
hard. It's hard.
We don't want another accident to happen, but that happened.
But if you go too far, they're going to say you're evading.
Right.
Well, it has happened, and people are afraid of that. And it can happen if it takes a while to find a safe place to stop.
Yeah.
Or you get an accident.
Well, even cops don't want. They used to pull people over all the time when I first started driving on 45, and now I don't see anything. All I see is like people going very, very large miles per hour, and
right.
I don't want anyone to get hurt, but there should be some sort of acknowledgement, like you take the next exit or something, keep it safe. Like
that's right.
There's nothing hard about putting a safe policy in where everyone can just do what they need to do.
I agree.
Pull off. Okay.
To be safe.
Yeah.
So basically, there's very valid reasons that it's a stressful situation for people.
Exactly.
But we can end that in Houston. We can end.
That's what they've done with accidents. It's like, you don't stop on the freeway if you can drive the car.
Right.
You pull it over to one of the designated accident investigation sites.
So that we don't cause another accident in that process.
Because, the typical thing was you hear a boom up ahead of you and you're like, oh, no. Then you hear boom, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
The chain reaction, the dominoes. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no.
So you're somebody that's a doctor who's a mom and you wanted to make a larger difference.
Yes.
And you are passionate about filling the gaps in systems, making them better, it seems like, in policy.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Are there a few topics that you're running on? Because, it's probably hard to condense them down.
It is a lot of things. But you know what? That is one of them. And for the ending non-safety traffic stops, because for one, like you're saying, those tinted windows on your car and getting that fixed did not make you or anyone else safer. Yeah. It was a burden that a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford. And Alexis, to your point, that is then officers that are not being available for violent things that are happening.
And there is an argument that it makes police officers safer because they can see in the car. If the windows are tinted too heavily, they can't see in the car as they're doing the stop. So, I get their argument, but it's like there's other ways to fix it.
There are.
And I think a lot of times, like with the legislature, and it's the same thing with the city council, someone comes up with an idea and says, this needs to be fixed this way. And no one stops and says, wait, let's think about this for a minute.
Think outside the box just for a second.
Yeah, I know it's difficult, but,
I agree.
And maybe we do a little bit of critical thinking, even though we don't teach it anymore.
I think it's important. Yes.
Yeah, we have to find ways to bring critical thinking back, that's for sure.
Because there's more than one way to solve a problem.
Absolutely.
Especially, and this is one where if we stop the non-safety traffic stops like some other cities have, then that frees up the officers to be able to decrease our response times for violent crimes, which affects all of us.
And I know Houston's, the most diverse city in the world. Is that correct at this point? Yeah. District C's got to be like a potpourri of that.
That's right.
It's not just the Heights or just East End.
That's right.
You're probably gonna have a diverse constituent complaints or needs or wants.
Yes.
Yes. And District C is known for being very vocal about those needs
Absolutely.
and wants and stuff. I think that's how Abby ran, was that she would be there to connect people to the right resource, right?
Yeah.
And even for her, it's been hard to keep up with. How do you think you're going to keep up with that?
I see it like being a very busy medical office. And the similarities are there too, in that the calls that come in, you need to be able to triage, because some of them do have to be dealt with right away. And so you have this large volume of calls and immediate triage. So that is something that I want to continue in her work and improve upon. If someone calls in and they have comments for a vote and they don't get called back until after the vote happened, then that wasn't dealt with in a timely manner. Yeah. So for me, I am one of those constituents in District C that, I've put in 311 tickets myself for trash and crosswalks and signal lights. I am one of those people, so I get it. And, I'm going to streamline the office to make it so that it's like a busy medical office, triaging calls and tackling them all. Yeah.
And are you going to still be working while you're a city council member? Or, some people do it mixed, right? Like part-time, and then they do full-time city council member sometimes. What's your plan for that?
essentially my work is very flexible and I can dial it down. I work for myself.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It's reading EEGs from my house, from my computer.
Okay.
I often do it at coffee shops. Wow. So I can dial that down to about an hour a day.
Okay.
Still have income from that and then be able to serve Houston.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So
yeah, absolutely.
How do you avoid burnout?
I think part of it is that's part of why I've designed my life in this way. I did have a normal doctor job until 2021. I was a full-time academic pediatric epilepsy attending, and I was rounding in the ICU and doing all those things, which I mean, I enjoy. But I left for telemedicine and reading EEGs from my house because, my goodness, I mean, the flexibility can't be beat.
Yeah.
My husband also works remotely.
Wow.
And so that really helps. And, you know, my dad is awesome and he pitches into the unsung work of grandpas.
Nice.
I just want to give a shout out to that.
Nice.
And my kids
So you
are
have
older
family
now.
support still.
Yeah.
That's great.
And my kids are now 7 and 9, so they're not babies anymore.
That's helpful.
So that's how.
Finally, when they walk on their own.
You
No, just
know?
kidding.
And
but then you have to put a low jack on them. Like, where are they going?
little
Little
bell,
AirPod.
a bell
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, like my dog.
Yeah, those little bells on people's shoes. They used to do that, yeah.
It's the same with my Chihuahua. Same.
Yeah, exactly. Stick the Chihuahua on them. You'll know where they are.
Pretty much. He follows them.
Little
It
bodyguard.
works.
Yeah.
He thinks he's their bodyguard.
Yeah.
13-pound bodyguard.
Yeah.
Hey, noise is what counts.
The little ones are mighty and vicious. It's fine.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And they hope that if something goes wrong, someone will save them.
That's right.
Like, help. The kid's got to do something.
Lassie, what is it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's wonderful. So you have support, you have flexibility. Yes. And I think it is important because a lot of people get accused of, oh, well, we don't just need a politician who needs a job. We need somebody who's willing to do the job, right? Yes. We need somebody who was prepared for the job. And I do think that in 2026, we don't need space fillers anymore. We actually need a lot of active work because District C has a lot of privilege in like their construction and their plumbing and things like this as opposed to other spaces.
Of course,
But they also have a lot of traffic. So it's like a constant update on everything all the time.
I think so. I mean, and speaking of kind of issues that are just personal for me, street safety and of course, I have my kids that are biking on the sidewalks and we cross Montrose every day to get to school. But it's everybody. It's not just my kids. It's everybody using these streets. We're the most dangerous city in the country for pedestrians and our number of traffic fatalities. So that is something where we can use evidence and data to guide, tackling the highest, most impactful streets from the high entry network and triaging those at the top.
But the real question is, and I this is what always worries me.
Yeah.
When someone identifies a problem, you also have to identify a solution that doesn't make things worse.
Sure.
I mean, the Tiers did this Safe Street initiative. Yeah. Which we're victims of here. And notice I say victims. To begin with, they knocked out 2 lanes of the street of Woodhead. So now we're down to 2 lanes.
Oh, I see.
And parking on the sides. It was 2 lanes plus a lane, and so mostly parking, there wasn't a problem. The speed on Woodhead has gone up almost double on the average car speed.
Really?
Yeah. They blow stop signs all day long.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the drivers are
And that's since they did their, quote, Safe Street initiative. Now, one concern that I had, and I asked, I said, so who designed this? Well, the person who designs this doesn't drive much. And they really don't. And I'm like, this should have been a red flag, guys.
Wow. I think that lived experience is important. When designing
especially
anything.
driving experience in Houston.
Yeah. I guess most of us are drivers and walkers. I mean, at different times of the day, you know?
Well, I think no matter what district you're in, we can pretty much agree that the bike lanes have been a cluster. They don't connect. They're differently set up.
And they aren't used.
So it's confusing for the drivers. It's also not very safe for the bikers.
Absolutely. You know? We need them to connect for sure from where people are to where they need to go.
Either connect them or take them out. I mean, it's the bit of, guys, you've got a bike lane. No, you don't. Yes, you do. Here's another one. Oh, it's on the other side of the street. But are you supposed to cross over, or how do you do it?
I'm all for that. Yeah, they need to connect to where people need to go to be usable, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if I had to guess, it was a case of people just not working together per district, and I don't know all the history on that, but I do know that there has been deaths and there needs to be a solution because it is a big city.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you at least ride some bikes and then you drive. Yeah. And it is an issue where some people start voting or getting on things and like say the metro for one.
Oh, yeah. I've been on the buses for years.
You can tell that they have not ridden a bus in their life.
Oh, my goodness.
If you have been in Houston and had a bus pass you up and there's not another one coming, now that's somebody who's ridden a bus. Like, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. And,
I've run after them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My parents didn't want me to drive. Yeah. So when I was 15, I've been riding buses since then. Sure. That's almost 30 years ago. And yeah, they're very different.
Experience.
They're so different in different parts of town.
And you're going through the elements. You're going through a lot of houseless people. You're going through a lot of different demographics. Like, it is a very cultural experience just to ride a bus.
It is. I mean, there's fancy commuter buses from Memorial to the Med Center that have these really plush seats, kind of like the ones we're on now. And then there's other buses like to LBJ Hospital and other places that are very different.
Yep.
And once you've been on it, this is very obvious. And if you haven't, then it's more of an intellectual thing. We need everyone to be able to get around.
Right.
And my biggest thing is they've got to go where people need to go, though.
That's right. That's right.
And a lot of times they go close. But if you're somebody that has some mobility problems, that last mile is not going to be something you can really easily do.
That's a barrier.
Yeah. Yep. And we're in a day and time now where city council members are kind of held accountable to like speaking to the state. Like, how do you feel in your role where you'll be working with the mayor and then you'll also be at the impact of the governor? Like, how are you addressing that?
We are certainly fighting on multiple fronts in 2026. I give it that in terms of funding for so much of what matters. I will say there was a group of us parents that were able to come together and get some legislation across the finish line at the state where, yes, you're right, it is Abbott and his friends at the top. We're near my kids' school, Wharton Dual Language, near Montrose. Basically, next to the little kid playground, there's a smoke shop, and you can smell the smoke in the little kid playground. So a number of us parents came together, organized, got into a group, contacted our electeds, and really actually it was Molly Cook's team that took that baton and we spoke with her, and she got legislation across the finish line to essentially regulate smoke shops similar to a bar, essentially.
Nice. Yeah.
Just so that we're not smelling that smoke.
It doesn't have to be real close.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just similar, and it's just to close that loophole. So I think there is room for us to work together on all parts of that political spectrum to get legislation passed that works for all of us.
So you're building bridges on all levels already.
Exactly. And that was at the state level. I've also, I've advocated for pretrial detention standards. I'm an epileptologist, and a whole bunch of people have died of seizures in jails, and that's a preventable death. So I've spoken out about that, and now I have created seizure guidelines that have now been put forth at the Texas Commission of Jail Standards, and it's under consideration.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's easy for me. For me, writing that out took like 10 minutes, but it can have an impact. And that's at the state level. And so I think there is room for us to be able to work together with a coalition of activists and people on the ground and families and get things through the finish line.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know people who are not in jails who have, worker jobs, and they're afraid to tell people that they are an epileptic in case they have to get another ambulance transfer again, and it's too expensive, and they don't want their coworkers to know. They don't want their coworkers to call on their behalf because they don't want the bill. They don't want the stigma of it. And I've personally had to talk to them and say, so you want your coworkers to walk in on that and not know what to do? Like, that's not a good plan. I mean, so
exactly.
And that's just people who, that's people who have insurance.
Yes, that's right.
Let alone people who don't have a lot of rights in prison and stuff. So thank you, though. Thank you. Because there's wonderful things that people can do with partnerships and self-driven nature, sometimes it's a combination, sometimes it's one or the other, and they really do get things done, but they don't ever get the mic about it. Like, people don't hear about some of the great things. Like, Alexis is always reminding me that one person can do a lot.
Oh my
And
goodness!
that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast, is because that's probably not going to be on the news. You know, that's probably not going to get on people's radar, but it's important.
And a lot of times, if you don't care about who gets the credit, you can do a whole lot more.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
yeah.
A lot of times the argument isn't whether it's a good idea or not. The argument is who gets credit. And, you know, from my end, I generally don't care.
Sure.
If
We
get
just
it
want
fixed,
to get it done.
yeah.
Let's just do this. Exactly.
You know, of course, you know, when you're talking about things with the jails and those sorts of things, city doesn't have much to do with those. I mean, there's the city jail, but it's minor compared with the county jail.
Sure. So the way within the city, though, there are things like the civility ordinance, which basically leads to people who are unhoused getting picked up and being detained for sitting on the ground, lying on the ground, or even leaving belongings on the ground. I think the idea with that was to get them into services, but I think the lived experience and the reality is that so few have been able to make it off waiting lists into housing that it hasn't really served that purpose and has more just been kind of a pipeline into that incarceration. So that's something that we do have an effect on within the city. So we can talk about civility, the ordinance, and does this even make sense for us as a city? What are our values, and what do we want to be incarcerating people for? So I think that is something that we can address at a city level.
Yeah, and it's almost like we have a problem not having a middle ground. We have criminals.
Sure.
And sure, once they've, gone through courts, et cetera, they may end up in jail.
Sure.
But then we have people that aren't criminals.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, and most of the people in the jail are not criminals.
Or non-violent. I think the majority are there for non-violent
Well, and actually the majority of the people that are in jail right now, have not actually been to court. So
that's right.
They haven't been found guilty.
That's right.
Well, there's that.
Yes, exactly. And that too.
Caseload backups and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're dying.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to be in jail in Texas. I mean, wasn't there just pushback recently on the fact that Abbott had to give them AC? Like, I mean, it's just too much. It is too much. And it's not all in Houston. So, but some of it is, So if some people say, oh, I'm so glad that ICE isn't in Houston yet. Not that it's like, wait. Let's back
They're
that
all
up.
over the place.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
But they don't see it like they see it in Minneapolis, is what they're saying. You
well,
know? And I'm like, well, to be clear, we have a detention center downtown.
Oh, we sure do.
And they're like, we do? And I'm like, yeah, you haven't been paying attention that much then,
Along those lines, Texas is one of 8 states where prisoners don't have to get paid for labor. So this has come up at city council, actually. Council member Kamen actually brought this to light. It was like a few years ago, maybe around 2020.
She's been in there for a minute.
She sure has.
Yeah.
And there was a bid that was put out to retread the tires of like tractor trailers and trucks for the city. And the lowest bid was like $700,000 less than all the others, and it was from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and it was going to get passed, but to their credit, Councilmember Kamen and Councilmember Evans Shabazz took a look and said, wait a minute, hold up, we're council members, we can take a closer look at this, and found it was because it was prison labor that was not going to be paid. And so they joined forces and said, we need to put this bid out again with language saying that workers need to be paid.
Nice.
And so they did, and that bid was no longer there, and the next one got it, who were paying their laborers.
Okay.
So that is something that, sure, that the Texas prison system is not in the jurisdiction of city council, but approving bids is.
It's something.
We can look at these things. We can fight back at a city level on a lot of things.
I think a lot of pros and cons about Trump is like he's having everyone evaluate like what exactly can we do in our lane and which lanes can we work with. I think we,
exactly.
When you go in and you shake a lot of things up, we're learning new civics at every level with this guy.
I have since 2016.
We're relearning at this horrible rate, but it is enlightening to be like, oh,
wait a minute,
there is more that can be done.
For sure.
Alexis, you've lived in District C for what, 30 years now?
since about 1980.
Yeah.
And there we go.
You've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood, to say the least.
Actually, 35 years, if I really think about it.
Yeah. And what would you want your city council member to do for you at this point?
Well, to begin with, undo the safe streets because they aren't safe. There's more crashes, there's more problems, etc. And like it or not, Houston is a car city. And everybody says, oh, no, we need to change it. You will not change it anytime soon. You have to make sure that there are places for people to park their cars, for them to safely travel and use, cars, because it's not going to go away. And the whole bit of saying, oh, everybody's going to switch to bicycles, that's ridiculous. I mean, if you don't believe it, go stand in one of the bicycle lanes and see how many times you have to dodge.
And you live on a bicycle street, so you've seen this in real time. And
after they put them in, I've watched not only this one, but the funny part is that 3 streets over, there are bike lanes on both sides, both directions, and no one ever uses them.
I will say, street safety, like you're saying, for everyone out there who is also a driver, which I think most of us are, street safety is for driver safety too.
Oh, yeah.
Because like what you're saying, when they're speeding and the speeds have doubled, that's more dangerous for everybody.
Right. And I think they really just don't understand what's happening on the street because there's no consistent patterns per area.
I think it's a big problem if there's a stop sign up there that says stop and you just blow through it.
Oh, that's a problem.
Right.
I don't care.
Bikers blow through it.
See, I don't care if you're a car or a bicycle.
Sure. I think that's fair.
I have never hit a person on a bicycle. I've been hit twice.
Oh, my goodness.
The bicycle.
By a bicycle that's running a stop sign.
Yeah.
And whops into the side. Both times, they grabbed their bike and ran.
Oh, my goodness.
And we don't require any registration, so there's no way I can figure out who they are.
Right. You've been hit and ran by a biker.
Yeah.
So I think we need streets that are set up so that doesn't happen so much.
Well,
that
and I've had people say, well, but it doesn't cost much. It's over $4,500 the last time.
Oh, my goodness.
That seems like a big chunk. It's not just like a little dent.
I think there's street safety projects that can be done in such a way that make everybody safer and prevent collisions like what you're talking about. And we can design streets with all of that in mind. It can be done.
Yeah, I agree with you. But one of the big problems is that, because of a lot of reasons, we put all this money in the tiers, they've spent it. And so, the problem is if you come up with a solution, spend a bunch of money on a solution and it doesn't work, now what do you do? Because you spent the money.
That's
and
fair.
you aren't going to really get buy-in from people who say, yeah, you told us that before. Yeah. So this is where I think it gets to be really difficult.
What else would you want from your city council member?
Oh, we got to talk about trash pickup.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a homeowner too. Sure.
She winks
Absolutely.
at me across the table.
Ours has gotten much better recently, but in general, it's totally confusing. You have to go look it up to see whether it's today or tomorrow. For instance, I don't know whether it's a city holiday today or not.
Today's President's Day when we're recording. Some people celebrate that, and then we weren't sure if the city does or not, like if the city's picking up trash or not.
No, this is helpful to hear, actually, even then from the council's office. How can we streamline some of these messages too?
Yeah,
that's helpful to hear. So thank you.
Yeah. And the garbage is a big deal in a lot of the neighborhoods. And I would say C has a fair amount of pickup, but it is confusing. Sometimes it seems very on target, and then sometimes it seems like there's something wrong, maybe with
we've had it happen
because of all the things, right? So
I mean, if we have a big storm that comes through, nobody expects it to be picked up on schedule. I mean, because that's a recovery time. Yeah. But in general, there should be a schedule you can count on.
Agree.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and this is really my biggest complaint.
Your biggest complaint.
My biggest complaint.
So huge.
And that is construction.
Okay.
You start down the street and it's blocked because of construction. And they don't really have any flaggers out. They don't have anything that they should have to make sure the traffic flow runs. So you get a good sized backup. You follow their detour sign, go 2 streets over. You turn, you go a block, and it's blocked by construction. Mm-hmm. And you go the next thing. I mean, I've hit as many as, I would say, 7 or 8 construction zones going 10 miles at most.
Yeah.
And it's like there needs to be some coordination that says you can't put a construction site on every single block.
I think every neighborhood would love that because it does seem like after a while, it doesn't, like day to day it changes, but also it's hard to know what streets are available to you, right? And I'm sure there's some text dot map somewhere that's probably not updated that we can all check on a daily basis.
Because a lot of the people just go, it's a new building and they're hooking up the sewer and they just dig the hole. They don't even get a permit.
Oh dear.
Well, and we were driving like down Woodhead the other day, and to her point, it was probably like 4:00. So maybe they're working, maybe they're not. Didn't seem like they were. And there were left behind construction projects that were going into the road, but no workers to direct traffic anymore, no reason that it looked like to be there. And so cars are negotiating around it in traffic time.
Oh, wow.
And quite frankly, it just looked like
that could be dangerous.
The barrels were left there, but why? And on Allen Parkway, the barrels have been down to one lane sometimes, not others, left there. Why? And what happens is some cars will move them, so that's possibly dangerous. And then everybody's backed up for what inconvenience we're really not sure. Yeah.
And
there's some gaps there that are very frustrating.
The second part of construction complaint is something that just really irks me, if you will.
Sure.
We had Fairview and several other streets that the city came through, and it was their standard, gosh, it's time to resurface it. They came through, they did very nice resurfacing on Fairview and up on Vermont. And I mean, the street was great. Less than 1 week later, the city is digging the street up. Oh. Because they had scheduled a project to replace the sewer lines under the street.
Wow.
And so they put it in, and then they spent $1,800,000 digging it up, putting the sewer line in, and did a quick patch job, and the street's already breaking down because it was cut immediately.
Oh, okay. Wow.
This is pure planning.
Sense. Yeah.
And when I got really pushy about that, found out that we don't really have somebody that's in charge of planning for the city.
Oh.
Each department apparently has their own planner, and they rarely talk. Now,
that's kind of what it seems like too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the way it seems.
Yeah.
But I got
what
that
was the planning here?
From people I know that work for the city and don't want to be mentioned. But it's like, why do we have different planners? I mean, there should be somebody that is what I would call the street czar, if you will. Nobody cuts a street without the street czar sign off,
I like that. Yeah.
The flows of it all. Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. And if you have an emergency, like, we've got to dig it up to restore power or restore phones, that's fine. The next morning, it better be on this person's desk, and they should be working on how you get it back and recover from this whole thing. And like Centerpoint totally ignores us. I mean, they could care less. They go do what they want, block streets right and left and the whole bit. Okay, those things are just frustrating because, like it or not, that street out front is my street.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I paid taxes. The taxes were, made for doing the street. And I had somebody in the planning commission tell me that, the problem is that it's a city street and it's a city right away, so all these people can do whatever they want. And I'm like, so you're telling me that if it's city, then we can do whatever we want. So I can go down to a city building downtown, take a sledgehammer and knock a hole in it. And that's okay. They said, well, no, that'd be vandalism. I'm like, and why isn't tearing up my street vandalism if you don't have a permit? And, they're like, I don't know. But to me, that chunk of pavement out there is really expensive to put in.
It is.
And, buildings are expensive, but so is pavement. Mm-hmm. And so, those things just frustrate me because I see, everybody's saying, oh, gosh, we don't have enough money. We're capped and we're about to run out of money. We don't know what we're going to do to spend this. And then they literally blow $1.8 million.
Right, due to planning that didn't take into consideration what had already happened. Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah.
Well, and if you're going to dig up the street, there should be a window that anybody that wants to do something within, the next 2 or 3 years, they've got to be involved.
Yeah.
And, it's like if you aren't ready, well, get ready.
Make the resources stretch. Let the public know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the forward thinking.
Because, I mean, it was really hilarious to watch them because, they've just dug up an intersection. They've had to go to great lengths to make everything right, and they did, and it was, great and beautiful. 2 days later, they're digging up the street again. And I'm like, what now? They're like, oh, we're putting in a new sewer.
Mm.
And so I had to play follow-up, and it had been planned for about 3 years.
So I think what also adds to this is then delays and then things then overlapping that shouldn't have been overlapping.
But, but my view is that somebody needs to manage that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the streets are.
Yes. And I chatted with Councilmember Ramirez about this, that he had put forth a transparency ordinance to kind of take some first steps to, well, if there's a delay, we need to communicate that, why it's happening, what the budget's going to be. And I support that because we need as much transparency as possible.
Well, and I think it's funny when they're talking about, oh, we're getting ready to do this, and they start something. They said it's in preparation for, and you're like, we don't have the money for that. The city's broke essentially on new projects, except they seem to come up with lots of money for certain things.
Yeah.
I think a budget should reflect our priorities, just like a household budget.
Yeah.
Reflects what your values are. And I think the same for the city.
But I mean, to me, those are the type things where we do things that are very wasteful.
Yeah.
That just, bug the heck out of me, if you will.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling us. And then, for this race, since it sort of popped up, when do people vote for you?
Early voting starts March 18th. So that's after the primary.
Yeah.
And then election day is April 4th. And nothing else will be on the ballot.
Okay, because a lot of people are ready for the primary.
Yes.
So to turn around and vote for this, they may not even know District C is up for a vote.
Absolutely.
Have you been finding that that's the case?
In a couple of phone calls yesterday, yes, with even people that I know pretty well. And they said, oh, I would have missed that. Yes, it's that's the big thing is we're getting the word out. So thank you. This is perfect.
And how many people are running?
There are 7 people that have filed.
That's a lot.
Correct.
Especially for a short.
It is.
When did you start running?
Well, we all heard the news December 5th officially, so I filed my treasurer report.
Yeah,
I think
in
about
February. That's a short race.
It's a very short race, but it's an open seat. Usually, open seats do bring out a lot of people, and it's nice to hear a diversity of ideas. And to help steer the conversation.
So, what do you think your viability is to make it past these other 6 candidates?
Sure. One is I have name recognition because I ran for school board previously. Nice. That's just how all these things serendipitously happened.
Yeah.
And in that race of the 8,000 votes I got, 5,000 were in District C.
Wow.
And they just voted for me just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So that is something. And then the parent networks from the HISD fight also go very heavily into the Heights.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have physician networks near Rice.
Nice.
My husband's of Jewish descent. I don't know. I've met with rabbis and things like that in more the Meyerland area. And
that's
I'm
important.
also I'm a fortunate person. I'm a physician, and that has made fundraising easier when my friends are also physicians. I'm not saying the system's fair. The system is deeply unfair.
You have to use the wins you have to win, and everybody else would too.
If you were a lawyer, you'd be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
It's a different group of people.
So that's how I was able to raise $100,000 in December. And so between my networks and the coalition I've already built with a lot of the advocacy work I've already done with criminal rights advocates, immigrants' rights activists, public education activists, healthcare advocates, and putting all of that together. Yeah, it's a broad coalition.
Because District C covers all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow. Well,
so
go ahead.
Another topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
LGBTQ community.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, you'll be representing a big chunk.
Yes, and that is an honor. Absolutely. Well, you know what? I'm going to start with you. You tell me what your concerns are. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from you as well, unless you want me to go first.
Go first.
Okay, sure. I am a proponent for a real non-discrimination ordinance in this city. Hero didn't pass before. I don't know. I'm curious. I would love to pick your brain. I'd love your thoughts. But yeah, because right now, in order to, let's say, sue if you were discriminated against for housing or something like that, you have to take that to like the state or the federal level. Like, we need something local as well to protect people for housing and employment and existing in public spaces.
But a quick comment.
Yeah.
I don't think a local non-discrimination ordinance is worth anything if we don't have state or federal to back it up. And the reason is that the penalties are so mild, and they have to be. I mean, because the city can't say we're going to charge you $1 million, penalty. I mean, they don't have, under the law, they can't do that. So most groups that heavily discriminate will just write it into an expense. And there's nothing beyond that the city can really do. It can make things a little bit difficult for them, but there's no real teeth that can be put into it from the city side. Now, if we had a state or federal level, then that would be a way to make it easier for people to complain and not have to go through all of the state or federal laws. But right now we have some federal, but no state at all. And so I think, that's a real problem. I'd rather see the city do some things that make it better, if you will. For instance, the restroom ordinance is one of the things that comes up all the time. Sure. We've had a restroom ordinance since before 1961, and it's a perfectly fine restroom ordinance. And essentially, what it says is that people are supposed to use the restroom that is marked for them, but it's not a problem unless they go in to cause a disturbance.
Sure.
So as long as you don't go into a restroom to cause a disturbance, then it's no problem.
Right.
And if you do, they already have recourse on the books for that.
Yeah, it's been there since the 60s or before. City ordinances were recouched in the early 60s, so anything before that, no one really knows what date the ordinance came into being, which I think is interesting that we apparently lost those records.
Oh, boy.
We can't find them, so I guess that means they're lost.
So I think we can do both things.
Now, what I'm going to say is, to me, that's an ordinance addressing one thing. The problem that I had with HERO was it addressed a very broad spectrum, which is very nice. However, there weren't many communities bought into it. I mean, there were 18 groups that were protected, and maybe 3 of those groups actually worked to convince people it was a good idea.
So I think it would need to be a broad coalition for it to work and for it to be worth it. I would be thinking of bringing in ethnic minorities, religious minorities, and bringing everyone to the table with buy-in and working on it, I think.
Yeah, but getting the buy-in is going to be a lot harder than you think. I'll just tell you.
And I mean, personally, are you done? I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I think when this topic comes up, everyone's heckles come up, and I don't see a lot of people pausing to look at what didn't work the first time. And it was a very layered situation that may or may not happen again.
Sure.
But I always get disturbed. I am deeply disturbed by anyone in the LGBTQ community or out of that community that wants to bring this up. Because if you're truly paying attention to what the ordinance will support, it's not this saving policy that will help our lives here. In fact, most of the reasons why this ordinance was brought up was to help people have recourse in discrimination. And the number one discrimination calls at the time for Houston at the time was for race, not sexuality, not gender expression. There were not enough gays and lesbians being discriminated against that made calls. There were not enough trans people. There were definitely nowhere near the amount of trans people that had issues that could call and want recourse that warranted that much like rhetoric. And what happened is around that time we had just passed gay marriage. So a lot of people in our community who had been fighting for gay marriage were really excited about that, but they were paying attention to that, and then they didn't realize that when this ordinance didn't pass, you could be legally gay married and then discriminated against in the city at the same time for putting up your wedding picture at work, right? But all that aside, unfortunately, because it became such a bathroom bill blown up in the news to make sure you kept this ordinance out of Houston because they wanted to keep the ordinance out of North Carolina. There was a huge strategy at play, national strategy at play. It became a trans issue. it was no longer a race issue. And you didn't see the vets showing up for their protection. You didn't see the pregnant women showing up for their protection. You didn't see the people who have been working towards race advocacy and equality there, because they thought that with all of these news reports and all this like money put into it, that it was a trans bill.
Yeah.
To the point where I've even seen trans people say, "Oh my God, we need to protect the kids in the bathroom." And I'm like, fool. What? But it happens on social media so quick. So when people bring up the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance and they make it a gay thing, they make it a trans thing, I'm already concerned that they don't know what they're talking about. I'm already concerned that we're going to be hit by another bus again, being left behind again, hurt again. We should not be, and this is very anti what you're going to hear, but personally, because I saw the trans community suffer so much, I do not think that the LGBTQ community should be positioned ahead of this bill. I think people who have race discrimination should, and then you're going to, by nature, get the numbers of LGBT people. I think, like what you said, and God, it takes a lot for me to say those are discriminated against religious-wise, because they hurt the community so much. But bottom line is, if you take vets or people who are discriminated against, you'll get LGBT numbers. We should not put them at the forefront. And Turner did an extensive amount of research to look at the viability of this in our city. And one of the concerns was there are other bigger and smaller cities that have ordinances already. Right. And something about if Abbott was in legislature or did another special session, which he loves to do for trans people and never gets anything really done and takes away abortion and spends all this money that they can't actually do when they're in legislature, I could go on. But he could call something and take away their ordinances. That was a concern. You don't want to ruin it for other people.
Yeah, on that one, San Antonio and Dallas have ordinance in Austin. And basically the thought was that if Houston did it, because of the fact that Abbott for some reason hates Houston, probably because he doesn't get any votes here, and, that if Houston did that, then there would be a state law that just outlawed all of them, and that would take away San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas.
Go ahead.
And so, we suggested that we don't do it.
Okay.
And you will find people who lead with that, and they want that, and they need that. And what they're really saying is, like, I just want equality. I just want there to be less pressure. But when you dig deeper into that and you say, well, what do you know about the first one? Or what do you think this will make available for you? They don't know. They don't know, and they didn't even know that we already had a bathroom policy that worked. In fact, most cis heteronormative allies out there that did show up for HERO, they all read that ordinance and they said, is it me or does this not mention bathrooms at all? And it does not. It does not. It mentions public accommodations, which again, in a big city like ours, specifically just Houston, we should have the other groups that would benefit from this ordinance know about it, but a lot of them stood away from it because they authentically thought, with all the rhetoric on the news and things, that it was a gay issue or a trans issue, so they stood back.
Right. And I remember that. But and that's why, in my mind, I think it has to be that broad coalition.
There has to be some new education.
And
maybe even leave the past in the past. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, from my point, I would much rather see us attack issues as opposed to a broad stroke, guys, we're going to make it, accommodate everyone for everything. Because that didn't go well, to say the least. And it really opens it up for the people who don't mind lying to everyone right to their face to do that. And, they can make up better lies than the facts, because the facts just aren't horrible. Yeah. And so, I see it as a problem. There are a lot of people that see that as their goal on earth, is to get that passed. And it's like, well, have fun. But, we've already had the fun that we're going to have with it. And I think that's where the trouble comes in, because you have to look at the downside as well as the upside. And, Essentially, yeah, the LGBTQ community has real problems with the state. I mean, we have a governor that basically attacks us and lies about what's a law and what isn't a law. Same thing with an attorney general. And, at least he's going to be gone someplace, maybe worse rather than better. But it's the type thing that it's difficult now, especially with the federal government taking the approach that they take. And so I think, part of it is we just have to write it out. And, the whole bit about like the gay flag crosswalks and removing those, rather than take the approach that we took, I would have rather seen us follow the suggestions that several of us made, and that is, why don't we talk to the people around there and just paint every parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
Something,
but and where is that now? Like, you get all this hype about some performative concern, and then you realize, like, wait a minute. There's tons of small businesses in Montrose that could be painting a whole bunch more than just that crosswalk. And I don't mean to belittle what a crosswalk means to people nationally and whatnot. It's just like, if you really cared, what are we doing now? And where are you afterwards? And with our governor, it is hard for the people to keep up on what really gets implemented. So there was all these drag bans. Okay, well, what's really banned now? Not a lot, not really, and what was the real concern? Not a lot, not really, but there was so much time and exhaustion. And I mean, I'm being very fair, and we don't need to keep on these topics or whatnot, but just for the sake of this, like, I hold people accountable, even the drag queens. You have access to a mic. How many nights a week? What are you doing to educate your people that support you and you support them in your livelihood, period, dot, the end? Like, where are you doing that on your platforms? Because the news will take it and spin it to their favor, but that's not really actually what gets implemented. And then people get scared, and people don't know. People don't know. Most people that are trans are not in your fucking bathrooms. Like, they have managed the bathroom to the point of the sacrificing of their own body long before this ordinance ever came about. And they were not holding their goddamn breath on, like, getting this ordinance passed. In fact, they were there helping people all the way through to help all the other demographics get their benefits and their rights, knowing that this would not be a get out of everything pass. Alexis was one of them, and it's important to just pause and ask, like, a little bit of deeper questions, again, with the critical thinking, because especially with that topic, people have so much misconception on the hype.
Sure. Yeah. And how it was presented and how it was twisted.
And how it's left in their mind.
And the big thing about it is that the people who are against us on that can raise a lot of money. And like it or not, when it comes to social media and the news media and all of the publicity related to it, money talks.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And they sit there and lie every day, even if it's something that's easy to prove.
And it affects the business owners. They're like, okay, so if I have a scuffle in the bathroom, what the hell do I do? They don't know. All they're looking at is, channel 13, channel 2, or whatever. Like, but if they had a city council member to be like, this is how you implement this, and this is what we're going to do. This is what really happened, and this is how you really live. These are your recourses. Like, that would be very helpful. Sure. And what you see is sometimes is a city council member saying, like, I'm for this, or I'm against this, or we're going to go for this, or we're not going to go for this. And that's a wonderful thing. But there has to be that, here's where it's settled and here's what we do now, to imprint on people to implement it, because they just don't know.
And the other thing about it is that an awful lot of the things that people say they need to protect are already protected. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, they've talked about violence in, women's restrooms. If you say it's violence, I think we have
some laws about that. Yeah.
I think it's call the police, let them deal with it. Yeah. And sure, it ends up in court and the courts decide. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. But saying, well, we've got to have a new law to protect against violence from these people to these people, which, by the way, never happened. Right. They couldn't find any cases that it really happened, so they just say it happened 6 times. They picked the 6. And, that's the whole thing. I mean, I've always felt like that we needed, each time we have people that can pass laws or ordinances, I think we need another house equally to repeal them. Because why do we need more? If we were okay last week, then do we really need more?
Yeah.
And especially like with Congress, I think we ought to take it and say, okay, so Senate, you get to repeal things, and House, you get to pass them, and we'll just go in a loop forever. But at least it doesn't hurt people. But yeah, and we'd love to talk more about details because there's a lot of stuff that can be done.
There's a lot of details, and it's good to talk with people who understand policy. It's good to talk with people who understand the viability of it and the long-term effects of it. And some of those conversations have been had, but they're not static. They don't just stay in place. I mean, a lot changes with the state all the time. Little counties all the time. I mean, there are some little Texas counties that have more rights than big cities, And then for some reasons, they're just not even that big of a deal. It depends. So
well, and there are state laws that only apply to the big cities, and oddly enough, the cutoff line seems to be Houston.
It's just such a coincidence.
I know. I'm sure they didn't plan that. No one really looked at it.
With the voting bill. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, if your city is over 1 million people, then this applies for the drive-through voting and all that.
If you happen to be by Harris County.
If it rhymes with Harris County, it's basically what happens.
Yeah.
And,
well, one of the things I ask people before we go today, and I wonder your answer on this, is we have more people who don't vote that could than people who do vote. And I always ask people who are running or who work with people who are running, what are you doing to engage the people who could vote that don't?
Discussions about quality of life, I think, cut through a little bit. When we talk about parks and libraries, that is something that I think people can connect with who haven't necessarily been engaged in the system. It's like, well, yeah, I know about this playground and I know about this library and, just kind of person to person or even parent to parent. Like, yeah, well, we know the way to get your kid off the iPad is to go to the playground. Right? I think sometimes by talking about the quality of life issues, I think that gets people engaged. And it's like, hey, so now let's talk about this. We can prioritize green space and libraries in our budget instead of with cuts. And that's something that we can enjoy every day and has bigger implications too. With improved urban green spaces, there's less crime. And with libraries, especially with the state takeover of HISD and closure of libraries there, it's even more important. And there's a straight line, and there's studies that show that the libraries improve graduation rates and people's wages. So I think by starting with quality of life issues, that's kind of how I engage people. And this includes parents at the playground, because this does happen that I talk to, my kids playing with another kid. I'm talking to the parents and they're like, yeah, we don't usually vote, like almost apologetic. It's like, no, let's talk about this. Let's talk about where we are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you say?
How you say that? What
do you say to somebody who says, well, I don't vote because I understand that, if you go to vote and you do something wrong, they can arrest you, which technically is correct, but it has to be really wrong and really egregious. And, it has to be major. But this is their concern. They're like, I've got to provide for my family. If I get arrested, I'll lose my job.
Like people who are afraid of getting arrested at the voting polls?
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually they're working on rumors that are like,
sure,
guys, you can't bring a cell phone to to vote. Well, yeah, you can. You can't use it, but you can certainly bring it.
That's right.
And but they're looking at what have been published by various groups, including some of the indivisible groups, that say, okay, here are the rules. Don't violate these rules or you could be arrested.
It's scary to them. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And we've talked to several of them, and like my big thing is, I'm like, okay, let me tell you how you get arrested at the polls. It's very simple.
I will say, I just watched a video on TikTok where a judicial candidate, former judge, she just went through, hey guys, here's what it's like your first time voting. Let's just talk this through. And
because they're afraid.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw some of the comments that were like, thank you, I didn't know this, know. So I think it goes a long way, that kind of education.
Around 2016, when Beto ran against Cruz, Alexis and I found out that there were plenty of registered voters. I mean, that's really not hard. But that had just never voted. And we started asking them why.
And the thing is that if you don't vote, you have to re-register regularly. Yeah. And they had for a lot of years. Wow. It's like, that's a lot of trouble.
They stayed
for not voting.
They wanted the right. But some of it was that they were afraid because they had never done it. Some of it was that they just didn't want to mess it up because it's a big deal, who you vote for and whatnot. And I think like Tanisha has done a lot of really great work of making videos of what to expect at the voting polls.
I think it goes a long way.
How to use the machines. And because even elders are still not necessarily wanting to mail in their vote because they don't trust the post office.
I've heard that.
But
I would not mail mine in.
I've heard people tell me that.
They're not sure how to can I really drive up in my car if I can't make the steps in? Or it's a really long ballot. Can I get a chair? You absolutely can.
Yes.
So I always ask every person, what are you doing? And thank you for walking that out and how you do it. And I think it is important for us to remember that the quality of life that we have in our city and state is because someone showed up to vote. Yeah. Is because someone, made something happen or did or didn't hold the politicians accountable to some degree. There are people doing this work. And if you want your quality and your voice and your reflections to be heard and taken care of, it does take showing up.
It does.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing about it is that if you know somebody who doesn't vote, invite them to meet you at the polls.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And walk them through it.
I love going with friends.
I
love it.
We've been doing this for a while. And, every year I end up with a couple people who are like, well, I'm just afraid. And I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of being arrested, et cetera. And we're like, hey, if you want to drive up to West Gray, we'll buy you a Coke or something.
Yeah.
Across the street.
Walk across the street.
For sure.
Yeah, talk ahead of time.
This has happened because my kids love to play at that playground with parents there. Hey, guys, it's right here. Let's just go do that. I'll watch your kid.
Play dates and go. Yeah,
yes.
Kid care and go. That's really
seriously
great.
Yeah. We'll walk them through the line. And I guess the second year we were doing this, this one person was scared to death that there might be police around that would arrest them for coming to vote. And I'm like, you have a voter registration, you have an ID, you have everything you need.
That's right.
And Alan Rosen was standing right next to us, and I'm like, hey, Alan, they're worried about voting because they're afraid of, police and that sort of stuff. And Alan comes over and introduces himself and then shows his badge and gun and says, I'm the constable. I'm here to protect you, not to arrest you. And, and he walked them through, literally. Yeah. And they came back out and wanted to know if it was okay if they call a friend and invite them over to do this. We're like, please, call them all.
Yeah. Yes.
That's another good thing to vote in a library or to vote at a park. It's like kid care, because
seriously,
it is hard to manage a lot of things.
For real.
So one more time on when we should get ready to vote for you.
March 18th is when early voting starts for this special election, and April 4th is Election Day.
And how do people find out more about you? Do you have a website?
Sure. AudreyForHouston.com.
Can you spell it?
Sure. AudreyForHouston.com.
Wonderful. And we'll go ahead and mark that in the show notes and everything.
Thank you.
So, thank you for coming in and being a guest.
Thank you for having me.
This is such a great moment to just pause and talk.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Any others?
Oh, you're just like, okay, goodbye. She's usually like, wait. You're like, bye. We're done. That's it.
I'm done. Aren't you done?
Okay, everyone, stay hydrated. Alexis is done. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Amazing. Y'all, thank you. Seriously.
Okay. Yeah.
Seriously. Thank you for sharing your platform that you've built.
Yeah.
Really.
Usually when I'm closing it, she's like, but wait.